One. Okay, sorry about that. So my name is Musa Zulu. I will be your moderator for this session, and our session is talking about artistic freedom and expression online. So the internet has become a very crucial space for artists to express themselves creatively, but the internet has also posed a number of challenges for the creative sector, including online harassment, censorship, and other such challenges. So we will delve deeper into the conversation, and we'll have it in form of a panel discussion. So I would like to introduce my panelists. So to start with, I would like to introduce Vanessa Chisakula, who is a spoken word artist and an activist. Please give her a round of applause. Next up, I want to introduce Roy Kazembe, who is an artist, a cartoonist, and an activist as well. Please give him a round of applause. Last but not the least, this is the most difficult part because at home I call him Dad. But for now, I would like to introduce Comrade Maiko Zulu, an artist and activist, to the panel as well. Okay, so please feel free to take down any questions. If anyone says anything that you'd like to add on, subtract, disagree, and agree, please take down your questions and make sure to engage as we have the panel discussion. So I'd like to begin, as I said, all of the panelists here are activists. So Comrade Michael does it in form of music, Chocolate does it in form of cartoons, he's a cartoonist, and Vanessa does it in form of spoken words. So I'd like to begin the conversation with you, Comrade Michael. You have been in the art sector for a very long time, and you have seen the evolvement of art from just traditional media to now artists expressing themselves and being creative on the internet. How do you feel that do you feel like the internet has improved artistic creativity online, or do you feel like it has been a drawback?
Thank you so much, Comrade. I'll answer your question in twofold. I think it's a yes and no, because definitely the internet has revolutionized the arts. It's much easier now to produce artworks. I'll speak for the music. I think those days we used to record like literally live. You had to go into a studio, stand in front of an engineer like a band and play, and it was like a 4-track recording. So everything was recorded that way. But nowadays, you know, you can be on the bus and you're just having your smartphone and you're able to record stuff. So it's much easier now. It's also easier to distribute, because at the end of the day, for professional artists, you need to distribute your works in order for you to gain income from it. So it's much easier. However, the downside of the internet is that it has, well, I'm an artist, I can use certain words without being censored. It has made fools of a lot of artists. We have lost touch, the creative touch, so much so that we have musicians, or people who are called musicians, who are not really musicians. They are basically the people who know how to use a computer and an app, you know. So the creative component of the arts has quickly eroded. And that is why now you have more bubblegum music than before. You have artworks that do not have the emotional attachment to it. You know, art is about emotion. It's like the way people cook. If you cook with soul, the people are going to taste the soul in the food. That is why black people's food is called soul food. It's different from the burger and, the shawarma. So that's what I can say about the advent of the internet. It's got its good sides, its bad sides.
Okay, and going to chocolate, would you agree also from your perspective as a cartoonist that the internet and things like AI have taken away from the creativity of the arts?
Well, first of all, let me greet the people. Welcome back from lunch. Well, hope you had a great lunch. Yeah. I would answer in a twofold way, like Comrade Michael said. It's both helping, but there's also the flip side of it, which is the same dilution that I'm going to talk about. But let me start maybe with the positive. The positive side is that when it comes to efficiency, like I'm also going to speak in the capacity of as a cartoonist or illustrator or visual artist. When we talk of efficiency, you find that it's a tool that can aid your let's say efficiency, your speed. You would go get something on AI, and it will quickly give you an idea of what you want to do. The same happens sometimes when you're writing a speech. I've seen people go there, they just type in this, then it brings you a template. But at the end of it, at the end of the day, that template is generated and it's not human. They even write somewhere where they say bot, something like a bot, meaning it's just some artificial intelligence. So at the end of the day, you have to tweak it. As much as it is helping you, but now you have to put in the human touch and see how you can now use it just as a tool. So on the efficiency part, you find that you work very fast rather, and you deliver quickly. And besides AI, let me also talk about social platforms that help artists, like, to have your work seen immediately. The way it was a long time ago when I was starting my career of cartooning, you really have to struggle to see an editor. For maybe a newspaper or a magazine, you would walk long distances going there and achieve file, big file of your samples and stuff. And for you to get a job, it would be difficult. But now, because of these spaces, you can put your work and immediately you get like real-time reactions, and even someone can spot you from there, pick you, and maybe you get some business or a job. But when it comes to the flip side of it, you find that someone can just generate images there, and they are not really authentic. When you talk about art, there's a difference when there's a painting there and there's an artificially generated image there. The value in these two are quite different. So the authenticity of the works has been compromised on that part. But I think it depends on the consumer, which they would prefer, which kind of artwork they would prefer. But in the long and short term, we are talking of, there's a lot of fake art along the way. As much as it is helping, but there's also a saturation where you see a lot of fake art, which is totally dependent on the generation of probably images. I hope I answered that question.
Yes, you did. Thank you, Chocolate. And I will ride off a point that both you and Comrade Michael made in terms of the internet making a platform for artists to easily have their music and their cartoons and their poetry accessed. Vanessa, you are a spoken word artist, and for those of you who've watched Vanessa, I think she has quite some quote-unquote provocative poetry in terms of demanding for accountability and good governance and things like that. So using the online space, Vanessa, in sharing your art and making your voice heard, how have you navigated using the space and at the same time avoiding censorship on the online space?
Okay, it's working. Good afternoon, everybody. Okay, so To answer your question, Wiza, I think censorship cannot be entirely avoided because sometimes censorship actually appears to be very relative. It just depends with who listens to what and how they take it. So for me, I think one thing that has really helped me when it comes to utilizing the internet and putting my work out there, it's to firstly understand what the platform is. What am I dealing with? What am I putting there, and what do I want to get out of it? And it has come as a very multifaceted platform for me because there I will raise my awareness, I will target my clients, and I will voice out on things that really matter to me. It ends up becoming fulfilling my duties of work and also just expressing myself as a person and as an artist. But censorship cannot be entirely avoided. As an artist, I cannot be censored.
Okay. And still on the subject of censorship, Comrade Michael, before you performed your song on digital rights, Richard did mention instances where you had songs like Mad President that were not allowed to play on traditional media. However, with the internet, you're able to post on your Spotify and Boomplay and Facebook and social media channels. So in terms of social media, I know there's a lot of harassment of artists who identify as activists like yourselves. So I'd like to hear from you how you've been able to maneuver that on the social media space in terms of harassment and censorship, which may not necessarily be from the law, but just from, the harassment online.
Harassment online will always be there, Comrade Muiza. And personally, the way I handle harassment is that I sort of evoke my two personalities as an artist and as a human being. So those of you who followed my social media platforms will know that I sometimes flip. Sometimes it's deliberate, just to make the other person understand that there is a human being who is reading this and who is likely to be affected by this, So you can't avoid that, but obviously there are certain instances where I've used the law to get around it. I'll give you an example. Before the last elections, I used to get a lot of cyber attacks from the Patriotic Front. And at one time, I took it up. And it took a bit of time for the law enforcement to actually move in and get the culprits. But that's one way of, protecting yourself. You can use the law because obviously, if I were to go all out and get my army of thugs and retaliate to everybody that, speaks ill of me on social media, that's not the way. But again, you have to understand that social media, for the new generation, it's like a release valve for a lot of people. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of hate. There's a lot of animosity. Sometimes you post an innocent child, and they are insulting the child. They are body shaming the child. So you realize that whoa, society is not a good place after all. And a lot of these ills of society are being reflected on social media today. And that is why it's important that, laws like the cyber laws that are now in place are seen to be protecting the interests of the innocent majority on online, as opposed, to protecting, because sometimes you have people who are being protected by the law, yet the law enforcers understand that they are probably involved in hate speech, but because they have a post in the ruling party, then nobody will touch them. So it's, we live in a crazy world, and I think everybody in their craziness, sometimes they want, to relieve themselves of stress, pressure, hunger, the poverty, economic, whatever. So it's reflected on what we see on social media. But for me personally, sometimes I go for weeks without opening my Facebook. I send you to post for me.
That is very true. And by the way, if you send him a WhatsApp message, expect him to respond probably 48 hours later or so. But I would like to ask the same question to Chocolate and Vanessa. Do share your experiences in terms of your work as activists who are also artists online, your cartoons and your poetry, and negative feedback and harassment. How have you been able to handle that? We can start with Chocolate.
Well, for me, thank you very much, first of all, for that question. For me, I use, sometimes I would pretend I've not seen what someone has said. Sometimes I would just say, because I've noticed that sometimes people, when you give them a reaction, sometimes you give them power to continue, hating or bullying. So sometimes I would just give it a blind eye, and then sometimes I delete people's posts and block them and stuff like that. But lately I've been feeling it's too much work for me, so I let my opinion be there, because I know that no matter the reaction that someone will get, my post will be there. So whether they are for it or against it, but they cannot pull it down. So my power is in putting it out there, no matter who likes it or who don't. But at least my expression at the end of the day will have been successful. But then I read also to see how I'm affecting others also. It's a multifaceted situation. I read just in case I'm the one bullying the others. I see.
Okay, Vanessa?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, just in case you're the one bullying too. Okay, so not everyone. If everybody likes you, I think you have a problem. Not everybody can like you. You're not ice cream, you're not money. So, of course, people have to disagree with you at a certain point. Some people will not like you, and the way we say it as a Zambian is natural. So, even as you're conducting your work online, you're posting innocently sometimes, you're trying to raise awareness, you're trying to highlight an important issue. There'll always be people that are going to oppose you. And for me, I can also personally say that I have grown a thick skin, and I have had a viral moment when my poem about the devil is a woman, blah, 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 hit 1 million on Facebook. Poems weren't doing that then. So when it did, I did have a spotlight. I had so many people asking me things, but I had so many people bashing me as well. That was a pivot for me. I had to pick if this is going to take me down or what not. A lot of people called me a pick-me, and it was coming from women, and things like that. Then I realized, I am taking this journey consciously. This is what I have chosen to do. I am going to speak on ills, and I'm going to speak on them, whether you agree with me or not. And also, along the journey, I have learned to see the thin line between somebody who is genuinely concerned about you and somebody who just wants to take you down. You will tell the difference when they comment. So like Chocolate is saying, you can read to see, am I the one inflicting the pain now? You can read to pick out something. You will see a person who's coming from a place where you know they're concerned about you. Then you see a person who's just trying to ruin your day on that day. So grow a thick skin, and also leave the person somewhere to come back to. Especially since everybody sitting on this table identify as activists. I have often said the activist and the person both need to feed from a place where they can keep going. That me, the person, Vanessa, I can feed the cause, even as the cause will feed me back. But I should never empty myself to the other side so badly that when I wake up tomorrow, I can't even tell which is the difference between the two of us.
Okay, and you both mentioned, Vanessa and Chocolate, that in dealing with online harassment, you realize that whether people disagree with you or some agree with you, you still have the platform and you're still able to share your opinions, regardless of who disagrees and who agrees. That brings me to a question regarding our country being, a conservative country. So there's a lot of sentiments about how sometimes artists, that's not our culture. As Zambians, we don't do this. So do you feel like there should be some sort of regulation, especially online, because everyone has access, well, not everyone, but a lot of people have access to online content. So do you feel like there should be some sort of regulation on social media platforms to make sure it doesn't divert from what we are calling national values and principles? Chocolate, you can take that one.
In terms of regulation, definitely any society needs laws and regulations. And when you look at the internet, it's a world on its own. Okay, it's a domain. So I don't think any kind of space like that can be left to be chaotic and to have everybody do as they please. Definitely, there's one or two people would cross the line, and it will now end up in aggravating some sort of it can be a crime of some, if you get me well, because this is why I would say there's the law already. Okay, there are cyber laws, like Comrade Michael said. And then besides that, there are also just laws, civil laws and stuff. If anybody crosses the line, I'm sure there are those, like I remember this morning, there was a panel which sat here, and one of them mentioned that you can actually go to court over some things that we can express on social media. So I think the regulation, the most important regulations that I think there is self-regulation. You need to sit down and, apply your common sense and just weigh things and know if you're crossing the line or not. I don't think anyone who sits around, who's sitting here, I don't think any of us don't have the ability to tell that what I'm posting is injurious or is crossing the line. So I think the most important one is self-regulation. Then there are other laws already that are there in place. But maybe as we go ahead, maybe those laws needs to be revised so that they are not infringing now on the freedom of expression. Because there are times when maybe, especially the powers that be, may just want to censor you, not over anything that is aggravating. You may even have a clear, valid point that you're making. But because of that, because they know maybe it's going against a certain political idea, they would shoot it down. So laws are there, but maybe they need to be balanced and make sure that they're not there to stifle the expression of artistic creations.
Okay, Comrade Michael, do you agree that sometimes the laws are used to silence dissenting voices and artistic ones? And also, what role do you think the government should play in terms of protecting artistic freedom and expression on the online space?
Definitely, there is a number of cases where laws have been used to silence activists. And a good example is just recently when young people wanted to protest against ZESCO, the power utility company. The law was applied in such a way that it was legal, like to stop the youth from protesting, It was legal, but it wasn't morally right. You see, so laws can be there, yes, but it becomes a problem if the laws are one-sided. You want citizens to follow the laws, and you want a certain clique in society not to follow those same laws. You know, it's like you're saying, do as I say, not as I do. I think where laws are concerned, they must be across the board. I'll give an example. If the ruling party today is going to have political activities, let everybody else have political activities. If a gospel musician is going to have access to ZNBC, the national broadcaster, let activist artists also use that platform, because we are all paying tax for ZNBC to survive. Even the TV levy, you know, everybody is paying, yet there is a certain type of artists that you never see on ZNBC. It's my comrade from ZNBC here. You never, you know, so you are declared unfit for public consumption even before you bring out your content. You know, so it's a problem. And for me as an activist, if I notice that there is a law that is sort of infringing on my rights personally, then obviously I'll react. I'll protest. I'll involve myself in civil disobedience, you know, because it's not fair. So if laws are going to be made, let laws be for everybody, not just against activist artists. Another example I'll give you. During the 2020 Bush protest? Yes. The Minister of Arts was on record saying the money that is being given out in terms of artist empowerment is not for activists. It's not for activists. And I challenged him on live radio to say that money is not from your farm, sir. You know? That money is taxpayers' money. And if you are going to seclude a certain sect in society, it might as well not be there. You know, so that is the irony about laws. As activists, we are going to fight against, personally, I'm going to fight against any law that seems to step on my rights. Of course, I understand my responsibility, but I also understand what my rights are.
Okay. And Vanessa, would you agree with Comrade Michael in terms of unfair application of the law? And I ask this to you because you and I were both some of the youths that were stopped from protesting at ZESCO. So would you agree that the law has been used to stifle artists and activists?
Strongly, yes, I would agree strongly. And I just wanted to pose a question to the House right now. Who amongst us sitting in this place thought to themselves that, oh, today when I go to Pamozi Hotel, I would want to walk in the room in my birthday suit? Okay, the laugh maybe says nobody. Even I didn't think about that. So the way we are conducting ourselves on the offline space, every right that we have on the offline space, we flip it to the digital side, but it's still the same. We are just playing online. We are the same people who are coming with the same needs. And so when those platforms are stifled or they are censored in a certain way, we start to select who's going to come here and who can we play on ZNBC, who can we take to Diamond instead. There are so many things that we're cutting short. Apart from the dreams, we're also making sure that there is something that is not entering somebody's pocket. So I do agree so very much with Comrade Father, and it's also a good thing that we now have the internet where we can run to, because some of us, in these physical spaces, there are spaces where some of us can never perform. We even know. When your name comes up, I think they just shove it aside and they say, suggest another poet. But at least the online space is where we go to express ourselves in that manner. And then we now cannot afford to have people also manning the space like that. They cannot keeping it to such an extent is just too much. And I do strongly agree with what he's saying.
I absolutely agree with you. And the conversation on the law and artistic freedom can go on and on and on. But due to time, we'll have to cut it here and get at least a minute of final remarks from all three of you on our topic of artistic expression and artistic freedom and expression online. So we can start with Comrade Michael, and then Chocolate, and then Vanessa.
Thank you, Comrade. I think going forward, as long as, there will be humanity, there will always be art. And as long as there's art, there will always be certain freedoms that are either inborn or inherited, because art can never be arrested. And I think Vanessa rightly said it. You can never arrest my thinking. You can put me in prison, you can even, but you cannot kill an ideal. So art is going to be relevant as long as we have human beings on the face of the universe. So in promoting the arts, I think we need to be mindful, especially as activists, that we are always going to be a target of cyber laws, because every government on this earth survives by fear. If the masses don't fear, then there's no governance. If a headman in the village is not feared, that is why most headmen just lie to us that they are witches. They know nothing. It doesn't even work, but it's that phobia they give you so that, the masses are controlled. So for activism to survive in this new era, we are going to adapt new methods of protesting, new methods of disseminating our information, new methods of resistance. Because as long as there is humanity, there is going to be good and bad. And we are always going to be there to oppose the bad in whatever way. So either by the ballot or the bullet, by the Bible or the gun, any which way freedom must count.
Thank you so much. Chocolates?
Okay, my addition would be to say that activism is it's a lone path. It's a lonely path. You need to be very committed when you start this path of activism, because it's actually not a career. Like in the words of Comrade Michael, he usually says it's a calling. If any of us in this room feels they need to take up this journey, I would just want to highlight that it can be a lonely path, and it only takes inner conviction, and sacrifice. Otherwise, sometimes nobody stands with you, with your idea. You look like maybe a red sheep or something, or a black sheep. So, and bringing you a little bit back about the laws, we discussed about how laws sometimes cannot favor an activist. It goes beyond that. You find that even the way you are treated in society, is different. I remember I was trying to get a contract a few months ago, and I was just bluntly told that you won't get this job. You won't get this job. It's either you change your details or something like that. So, in short, what I'm trying to say is sometimes you feel segregated, in this journey, and then you even know that it's like sometimes you are alienated. You feel like an alien, But at the end of the day, spaces like this keep us going, because you find that there are other people, activists, on the same trip with you, and then this is where we get our encouragement and support. But otherwise, it's not an easy road. And then opposition is definitely there every day. So we wake up to the thought that God is protecting each one of us.
Thank you, Chocolate. And Vanessa?
I have mine. So, in closing, Ms. Awad, I would just want, especially the creatives in the room, to take away is that we are walking museums, we are libraries, and any information that we are giving out now in forms of songs, poems, anything, this is the information that people are going to look back at in the next 10, 20, 50, 100 years, whatever. This is all there's going to be. So it is our duty to reflect the times. If it's not going well, Milimu is expensive, go and scream it out loud. If it's working out fine, say it's working out fine. We are reference books for the future, for our children, for the future generations. If they look back, they're going to want to know what Zambia looked like in 2024. A cartoon from Chocolate will help. They'll look at it and they'll know, oh, this is what we're trying to make. I still reference to the Mad President song up to date, because when I was singing it, it was playing on the radio and I was young. I didn't even know what I was singing. But now, it makes so much sense. I can look back at it now, and I can see that this man was reflecting the times. It really stood as a work of inspiration. So I want artists to really understand what duty we have upon ourselves, the burden to reflect the times and to tell it as it is. To the government, they are the custodians of laws, of policy. And it is up to them. They're housing, whatever policies, the documents, they're the ones keeping it, they're the ones running it. We depend on them to make it as friendly as possible as it can be for us to operate. But if they won't do it, we as artists are going to reflect that they didn't do it, so that somebody at a certain time can make sure that they start to do it. Otherwise, no matter what sort of censorship, artists cannot be shut up, we cannot be censored, we cannot be stopped, you cannot arrest my brain. I will wake up tomorrow, I will call out anybody, and life will keep going like that.
Thank you very much. I think that was a great closing to our panel discussion. And before we take our seats, I would just like to take maybe just a couple of burning questions from the rest of us. Okay, I see many hands. Okay, so we can start with you, and then you can ask, and then maybe, is there a female hand up? Okay, you ask. All right, so you can go ahead, please. So you can just tell us your name and where you're coming from, and then you can ask your question or make your contribution.
Good afternoon. My name is Peter. So I think a couple of years ago, Dad, Comrade Michael, and I and a few others traveled to the Copper Belt to do a campaign on Bill 10. And we were supposed to go to a certain place, but along the way, plans changed because as activists, they were activists. I work for a civil society organization. I think they had some information around people planning to block that particular event. So what was supposed to be an engagement with the community ended up being a press briefing of some sort. And we changed venue, go to the venue. Immediately after the press briefing, we're back on our way to Lusaka. That for me is really important in that, again, we need to always plan ahead. But that was not the point of my contribution. My contribution is, how do artists and activists manage to navigate between being bought? And I say this because there's a number of people that could have been sitting there that we thought they are artists and had a, were for the cause, and yet today they are not with us because of those things. And we've heard stories. Chocolate is saying he was told to change his name. And the reason is simple. It's because of a certain group of people that wanted him to do that, but remained that. So how have you managed, especially Comrade Michael, through these years to remain true to the cause? And what is your message to the Vanessas of this world? I'm sure Vanessa has not just been, a bigger carrot has not just been dangled in our face. And if it has, then congratulations, you are really strong. But what is your message to the young people in terms of staying true to the cause, but also, remaining focused and be a true activist, as it were? Thank you.
Okay, you can ask your question as well. So we'll take 3 and then the panelists can respond.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chanda Mumbi. I am an activist. We actually sensitize against violence, like the T-shirt that I'm wearing. I'm sure everybody can see. Mr. Michael Zulu is a colleague, and we've done some work together. So I have a question, right? As artists, there's the Access to Information Bill, which was just passed. And what I've noticed, especially for my Facebook page, is that when you post things which are aimed at sensitizing the community, you find that your Facebook page gets blocked for maybe a number of days, a week. Mine's gone as far as a month. So I don't know where we are going in us as people that are looking for the development of this country to post things which bring development and then you're blocked. So on that part, that's for the government to deal with. So now for the artists like Mr. Chocolate, Vanessa, I follow all of you on the stage. Mr. Chocolate is mostly focused on the newspaper. So you find his cartoons in the newspaper, Mr. Michael Zulu. So what basically are you doing to improve the arts? Because what you have is a talent and you want to expose it to other people. So now if the internet is not working, what other interventions are you using to get to these young people? Because a lot of young people are engaged in a lot of illicit activities. So I would like to understand what you're doing and how we can also engage in these programs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will take the last question from here.
Good afternoon. My name is Gerard Londoi. I'm with Internet Society Zambia chapter. But I'd love to emphasize that as I'm asking, and I'm standing here, I'm speaking as an individual and not for Internet Society. So I want to give a very brief background. We've seen a lot of censorship when it comes to, artists, especially those who are both artists and activists, and usually these two go hand in hand. And a lot of people have a lot of self-censorship because of that, and they're timid. They're scared, especially if you have to talk about things that have to do with a ruling party or a current government. Now, how do you ensure, maybe not ensure, are there ways in which you have people that want to become activists like yourselves, but then they are timid, they are scared? How do you get to such, or how can they get to you so that maybe you teach them a thing or two and we have more of the chocolates and the Uncle Michael Zulus and the Van Vans? Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll get a response. Maybe we can start from Vanessa and come this way down. You can pick on. So Peter asked about how we remain true to the cause. He mentioned the carrot being dangled. I'm not sure. Maybe it wasn't big enough. But if it was, how do you stay true to the cause? And I think that question was also particularly directed to Comrade Father. So you both can answer that question.
Okay. So I think the carrot being dangled and also remaining true to the cause. Let me just rush through what I can say. Peter, yes, carrots have been dangled. Yes, not a government job. I haven't been asked to be PS yet, but it's a joke in the house. But still, carrots have been dangled. And one thing that I can say, I think for me, when I got started, I had the opportunity to be anywhere else but here, and it felt right for me. And I think the thing about starting to do something on a zero budget, like when you have no funding, you work solely on passion. And that's where it started. I was so excited. My blood would rush every time I thought about performing in front of people and speaking out or posting on my Facebook and everything else. And so I don't think that can be bought. I don't think it's sold in any shop. So until then, I don't know how big the carrot will be, but I don't think I'm going anywhere. And also, to you, my brother, to any person willing to get to this point or further, maybe to be like our comrade father here, it's to firstly start with why. Why are you starting to do that? When you clarify, every time it feels burdening, it starts to make less sense. You can ask yourself why, and the why takes you back, and you start all over again. And just to quickly mention, I am a coordinator at Word Smash Poetry Movement. We create a platform for young people to come and express themselves. If you walk into a poetic space where you're not allowed to talk about anything, we don't censor. We allow you to come, and we have seen so many people start from there, and today they've grown even bigger than me, and we are there just standing like, wow, this is what was being hindered somewhere else. And also on maybe statutes like the ATI, we're doing trainings on the side, like we just recently trained young people, 25 young people from Mazabuka on the ATI and other statutes that they can use to defend themselves, because knowledge is only potential power, but applied knowledge is the real power. Thank you.
Comrade Michael?
Thank you so much. Comrade Peter, just like Vanessa, I'll give you a practical example. The last carrot that was dangled was just again before the elections. And my family will bear witness where an envoy of a leader came to say, we are going to give you 20 acres of land. 20 acres for you, 20 hectares for your wife, 20 hectares for your daughter, because, and we'll build houses for you, so that when you are insulting the leaders, you insult them from good houses. And they always come when you are totally broke. It's just one word, comrade, that keeps us alive, principle. And I think I'm proud to say that I've lived by my principles since I was a young person, a young activist fighting for dreadlocks when I was denied entry into the parliament building because of my small dreadlocks, until now when I'm a grandfather. And I know how to dance for leaders at the airport. I know perfectly well. I know how to lick politicians' boots. I know how it is done. But I can't do it because I have certain principles that have made me go on a hungry belly and not want to be a rich superstar, because I believe I have a certain message that certain sectors of society are not able to give out there. So carrots will always be there. Even now, I think we have carrots. I won't tell you about them now because they are coming from, they send people who are your good friends, people who you trust, people who you respect. And sometimes you have to say no to these people because you stand on certain principles. Comrade Peter, you talked about, Comrade Chand, what happens when your internet or your page is blocked? Again, I come from an era where we had no internet. So I have a certain experience in groundwork. And that is important, where your VPN, because now even access to information is subjective because of load shedding, because of deliberate disturbance of the internet. We know it's not just an Airtel issue. These are also power issues, political issues. So we can't run away from the fact that the internet sometimes is being disturbed so that people do not access certain information. So what do? we get to the people. If I'm able to change the mindset of 1, 2 people, you know, it's good for me. Then lastly, the question on people who are scared, especially the young generation. I think we have to take risks. And one of the risks I took was to encourage my own children to become activists, to go to protest in the bush with my own daughter. You know, that is the kind, because activism should also be intergenerational. We have people, like you rightly said, who come into the space and tell us that they are activists. You dangle the carrot Peter is talking about, they'll change. And they'll be quiet because you don't speak with food in your mouth. It's bad manners. You know, so that's life. So some people are here to transition, not for the cause. And we have a lot of career activists, you know, who are activists because they are working for an organization that supports certain rights. If they were not working there, they were not going to be activists. So there's a difference between NGO activism and actual activism.
Thank you very much. And lastly, Chocolate, I think I would also like to get your response to the question on how you remain true to the cause, even when carrots are dangled and they tell you just change the details and you'll get the contract. And also your encouragement to people who might be scared of being in the activist space because of the challenges it comes with.
Looks like the carrot is the elephant in the room. But I want to say this carrot thing is not exclusive to activists. Any discipline or field each one of us is in, they can face that. You can be a policeman, a carrot can be dangled. You can be a doctor, media personality. You can be given money to report a certain way. So I just wanted to make that clear that each one of us in this room, we are susceptible, or let me just say we are prone to being tempted into such kind of thing. But what keeps someone moving in such a situation is the inner conviction to do what is right. If you are in it to see a certain change and something bothers you, you know, in society, and you actually can even lay down your life for it, I think that's what can make someone stand in that situation, even when something beautiful or something very attractive is dangled before them. I just want to quote that story in the Bible, which is famous, when the devil takes the Lord up on a mountain when he was very hungry. And he told him that if you bow down to me, I'll give you all this, you know, the beauty of the world and the riches, the gold, the silver. But like Comrade Michael said, it's a matter of principle. And it's a calling. You don't go into this kind of thing for bread. You will fail. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you to all three of you for being on the panel today. And thank you to you as well for listening and for engaging. This brings us to the end of our discussion. I hope that it's been insightful, and my privileges are hereby revoked, so I'll go back to calling you Daddy. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and thank you as well. A very stimulating panel discussion. Couldn't have done it without your attention, so thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. So, Brother Michael, your next song on nepotism, when is that one coming out? No, very well done. For our moderator, another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. It's already... Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into our next presentation. Our next presentation for this room has to do with data extra activism and social pollution, raising awareness in support of a healthy and inclusive tech ecosystem. Now, as we all contribute and partake of what is the internet, I know a lot of individuals have described it as a toxic space, a manipulative space, an unsafe space. So how do we get to those descriptions? Well, we talk about the health of the internet, and of course, all of us as key stakeholders, including users, institutions, all play into that ecosystem. So here to talk a bit more about the ecosystem, we have Mr. Christopher Chagnon. I hope I pronounced that right. Yes, okay. A warm round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Mr. Chagnon.
Thank you all very much. Mwachomo Bwanji. Good afternoon. Sorry, what is going on there? Oh, while we're sorting this out, I can just quickly introduce myself. My name is Christopher Chagnon. I am a PhD researcher at the University of Helsinki in Global Development Studies, also affiliated with UNZA, Department of Development Studies. I want to start off by thanking Bloggers of Zambia for inviting me to speak today. It's really just such an honor and a pleasure to be here. And thank you all so much for coming. You know, I'm used to academic presentations, and I'm used to talking to academics. And the thing is, it's great, all things are fun like that, but being able to present here is a real honor because it actually means that I can get this knowledge to people who can actually do something with it, not just have it in an article or a book or whatever. And that should be, to me, the heart of any sort of research. So, we're going to be going through a bunch of things today. I'm going to try to time myself because, you know, academics always talk way too much. So I always like to put myself on a timer, keep myself honest. All right. So, we're going to be going through a bunch of things. We're going to have a little introduction. We're going to talk about extractivism, because that's the basis for getting into data extractivism. Talk about the kind of conjunction of data and extractivism. Get into kind of the concept of social pollution, which is something myself and a colleague have come up with to describe the social damages done by the way big tech companies try to extract as much personal data as possible. And then we'll look at some research methodologies very, very briefly, don't worry, not too long, and have some of the stuff based on my interviews, expressions of social pollution in Zambia that people have brought up, and then, you know, not to be totally negative, bring up some of the positive things that people see from the development of the tech sector. Hold on. Awesome. So I'll jump through this stuff a bit quickly, but for the purposes of this, I use the definition of data from Ulysses Mejias and Nick Coldry's book, The Cost of Connection, which they put forward the idea of data colonialism. Data is information flows that pass from human life in all its forms to infrastructures for collection and processing. Now, this is the thing. We talk about data like it's the new oil, it's the new gold. It's not new. Data has always been valuable. Some of the oldest human writings, going back 3,000 years, are censuses from Babylon. But the thing is, data for the vast majority of human history has been really difficult and expensive to collect. You have to send out people. So that's why for the vast majority of human history, it's usually been governments who did it in the form of censuses. Why? Because that's taxation. That's your army size. It wasn't really until the 20th century that the private sector started catching up to governments. And then by the 70s or 80s, with computerization, the private sector was able to surpass governments. And then in the 2000s, we moved to what I would call going from data collection to data harvesting. With smart devices, proliferation of the internet, What used to be done by someone walking around with a checklist, now it's 24/7, streaming in our pockets, mass, automated, harvesting. It's valuable. The biggest companies in the world, they used to be oil companies. Now they're tech companies. 9 out of 10 of the biggest, most rich companies in the world are tech companies, or companies that deal in data. So, quickly with extractivism, I'll condense this a bit. Extractivism comes from the critical Latin American context, originally looking at mining and oil, and in a nutshell, it's looking at how those sorts of companies try to take as much as possible, as cheaply as possible, not caring about the damage that they do to the environment, not caring about the damage that they do to local communities, or the traditional livelihoods, or the culture around them. And looking at data, if you think about it like a resource, the flows of copper are like the flows of data. They mostly go to the global north. The profits mostly go to the global north. Coldry Mejias also put forward this idea of data as a social resource. And so with this stuff, it's looking at how big tech companies actually in many ways act like mining companies or oil companies. But just as traditional extractivism, the main damage is to the natural environment, and then there's spillover effects damaging society. With data as a social resource, the main damage is to societies, with spillover effects damaging the natural environment. Also, I should have said this before, but welcome to probably the most depressing presentation of today. So, just very quickly with this, to expand data extractivism, it expands other extractivisms. To get more data, you need more devices, you need more internet, you need more cables, you need more satellites. All these things require more energy, and then all these things require more resources, which then cause environmental damage. And then, of course, there's the issue of e-waste. A big difference between mining and data harvesting is that mining equipment is bought, every 10 years maybe? It's not a consumer good. But the things that are used to harvest our data are consumer products, and they want us to buy new ones every single year. So to describe these sorts of social damages from these modalities of companies trying to take as much as possible, my frequent collaborator and dear friend, Sofia Hagelani-Albov, and I came up with this concept of social pollution, which we say social pollution is the harmful and destructive impacts extractivist approaches have to data on societies. Now, there are many different things here. We have kind of 3 broad subcategories. And please keep in mind, these things are not siloed. They are interacting, they're varied. And I hope as the future goes, people will build upon this and find new ways and point out new ways. So the first one is inequalities. The different types of inequalities are myriad. Extractivism is dependent upon and exacerbates inequalities. There are a bunch more, but for time I had to cut them out. First one is, pay for protection. Simple fact is, rich people can protect themselves from this stuff more than poor people. Rich people can afford to pay for VPNs. Rich people can pay for services that go to the dark web and get data brokers to scrub their information. Apple touts how they stop background tracking. But Apple, well, that's a luxury good. There are, of course, issues of global internet access. There are a lot of benefits to technology. But, of course, in the global north, penetration is much higher than in the global south, limiting people's access to those benefits. And, of course, again, going to rich and poor, one of the most infamous examples is Facebook free basics. It's this free, quote-unquote, free light version of Facebook. Depends on where you are, but you might get a certain amount of data that you can use for free on it per month, or maybe unlimited. But in the T's and C's, Meta is allowed to go into your phone and take everything that's on it. Your contacts, your notes, your photos, that's theirs. Of course, there's inequalities in language. I can point out here in Zambia, Facebook is not in a single indigenous Zambian language. The T's and C's are not in a single indigenous Zambian language. Consent is a huge, huge issue that I could present for a long time on its own. T's and C's are designed not to be read. It allows them to hide stuff in there that people would never agree to. And if everyone realized that it was happening, they might all get together and find something else to do. But think about this, with the T's and C's, even if you are a lawyer who has high-level English, those T's and C's are confusing. If you're somebody who just graduated from middle school in a rural area, and English, you might be able to get by, can you expect them to be able to go through and truly consent? No. There's also big issues of content moderation. The most extreme and horrible example being the Rohingya genocide. The quick version being that Facebook rushed into the Myanmar market. Within a few months, they had tens of millions of users. How many content moderators did they have? One. When activists and academics brought up this is a problem, there's hate going and being spread, they hired a second one. People were literally using Facebook events to organize mass killings. They're saying, let's go to this village at this time in a group and slaughter everyone there. And Facebook did nothing about it. And then finally, one that I think is always an interesting and important one is the expansion of mobile internet. There's this orthodoxy that says more internet equals better economic outcomes. And research has shown that's not actually true. The thing is, with mobile devices, they're designed to be things for consumption. You can consume, you can have your data harvested. But for building digital skills, something that can get you an office job, something to learn how to code and build your own new system that's not extractivist, you can't really do that on a mobile phone. So pushing mobile internet is just harvesting more data without actually giving people the ability to make something for themselves. So now let's talk quickly about toxifying the social environment. This is a very global sort of thing. There are studies around the world showing this happens in every culture. There's addiction and dependency, and that is by design. If you're addicted to your device, which, let me be the first to say, I'm addicted to my devices. Addiction means you're spending more time online. It means that they're selling more ads. It means they're harvesting more data. But we also see all these negative impacts on memory for information, memory of your own life, attention span, sleep quality, ability to delay gratification, and there's tons more. One thing I like to zoom in on is polarization / echo chambers. So a lot of this comes down to human psychology. Now, there's whole books written about this stuff, but basically it boils down to subconsciously, human beings treat online communities the same way that they treat face-to-face communities. But of course, these sorts of things are very different. In your physical community around you, let's say someone is a far-right extremist. They might be one of two people in their community. They might be bumping into people, seeing different points of view, having their thoughts moderated. But of course, in physical communities too, you have face-to-face interactions. You can see that the person you're talking to is a human being who's going through struggles. You're not necessarily going to be mean to them. And if you are, then you could get shunned by your community. Communities have duties, they have traditions, they have social constraints, they have responsibilities. Online communities, though, they're self-selecting. I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I mean, we can talk, we just had this amazing panel with activists. And the thing is, this is a great way for activists to come together. But unfortunately, it's a way for bad people to come together too. if those far-right extremists get online, they can suddenly find groups of tens of thousands of people who think just like them. Then they think, well, maybe this isn't so bad. Maybe this isn't so extreme. And then there's the fact that it's fluid. You can join a bunch of different communities. You can come and go as you please. And then, of course, it's somewhat anonymous. You don't know if that person you're interacting with is a real person, or if there's somebody who's there trying to manipulate the system to try to get bad things out there. So there's a psychology of trusting communities which happens online the same way it does in real life. There's the idea of homophilia, which is, we like people who share the same ideas and like the same things we do. Pretty natural. Then there's the aspect of confirmation bias. If you have a preconceived idea, you are more likely to accept information, true or false, that confirms your pre-held beliefs, and reject information that goes against them, true or false. So then we have the psychological influence of groups, which again happens online, and this has been found to be online as well as in person, with psychological studies going as few as 6 people. There's this aspect of group polarization. So people are in a group, they come in, they say their ideas about something. If one person, just one, in that group says an extreme, outrageous view, everyone in that group is likely to have their opinion on that topic shifted in that direction. Even if they totally disagree, they'll still shift, even a little bit. So if you already have people who are kind of like-minded in that, again, let's say right-wing extremists, they're going to become even more extreme. Beyond this, in groups, there's this thing of reputational cascades. So again, we're in this right-wing Facebook group, somebody comes in, says something completely over the top. Let's say Jewish space lasers or something like that, causing forest fires. Other people in the group might be like, that is absolutely bonkers. There's no way that's true. But they might not say anything. In fact, they probably won't. Because they're afraid if they stand up and say something, that they will lose their standing in the group, that they'll be shunned. So they just stay quiet. And then this can impact informational cascades. Let's say in the same group, there's somebody who just joined, has no formed opinions about this stuff. They see this extreme view come in, and then they see nobody's disagreeing with it. So they're like, oh, this extreme thing, this must actually be the way it is. And then all of a sudden, they are radicalized. And it's not just these single groups. People are in dozens of groups. They take this information and they bring it around. It's just this ping pong effect going everywhere. But I want to say, because sometimes people are like, oh, well, that's just the way it is. It's not. It is not the natural state of things. Unfortunately, we can see that they're toxic by design. In, I believe, 2020, there was the Facebook papers, this massive leak of internal communications from Meta, where it was very clearly shown that the social scientists hired by Meta, because they hire a lot of people, came forward and pointed out this exact same stuff. Meta was pushing groups, they still are. They were putting more weight on negative reactions for pushing posts, because all that stuff gets people engaged more, spending more time online. And social scientists were saying, this is causing social damage. You need to change. But the Meta board said, like, ooh, we're making more money than ever. How about we just tell people to be nice to each other and business as usual? So quickly, I'm really running late here, but quickly, the last thing is homogeneity. So big tech companies, one of their power things is pushing forward this idea of tech universalism. That is, there is only one way to develop, deploy, and engage with technology, and that is the Northern California hyper-capitalist extractivist way. But that's not true. Tech is a tool. Tools are developed, used, engaged with differently in different cultures around the world. And this homogeneity has effects of marginalizing other approaches. Cultures, and languages. So just one quick note here. I'm not saying that, bullying started with the internet. Of course, it happened before that. A lot of these negative things existed before. What I am saying is that the way these systems are designed is creating a toxic environment that allows these toxic things to flourish, and it doesn't have to. So, yeah, I conducted 70 interviews and surveys with people in the tech sector, public sector, and civil society, talking about positive and negative impacts of tech, what aspects of Zambian culture should inform the development and relationships of tech in Zambia, and just very quickly, everyone that I talked to was able to point to something that I would describe as social pollution. Of course, there's all these general things, addiction, changes to interactions with the world, like people just taking photos of their food instead of actually talking to each other, stuff like that. Impacts on attention span. But I feel like the most interesting thing, it was actually something brought up to me early, was negative impacts or forced changes to culture. The example being Nchwala. My wife is Ngoni. We went out to Nchwala this year, earlier, it was fantastic. And I was able to actually talk with people there, like informal conversations, dancers, attendees, and they were able to confirm that this is what happened. So, think about Nchwala 10 years ago. How did the women dress? Think about Nchwala today. How do the women dress? Why? Because these artists, these people trying to share their culture that they're proud of, sharing it on the Facebook with the world, and the AI flags it as pornography because there's nipples. So because of this, it put people in a position of like, well, if I want to be able to share this with the world, I have to change. I read and I've heard, the whole point of dressing that way is because Ngoni people feel that the power of their people is expressed through their bodies, so they bare their bodies. And now it's hiding the power of the people in order to be able to share a bit of the art, a bit of the culture. Of course, benefits, everyone saw benefits too. Plenty of things with education, the University of YouTube, be able to connect with friends, family, different cultures around the world. Of course, economic benefits, which could be its own presentation, and improved services, which we're definitely seeing a lot. So in conclusion, culture is a living thing. It's not under glass, and it shouldn't be under glass. But I also don't think that AI content moderation from Northern California should be forcing people to change their culture. And the thing is, we have to act together, all of us, before it's too late. Because the thing is, I have a 7-month-old daughter. By the time she's old enough to vote, if we don't change things, she will be inundated with this extractivist system, this exploitative system, and it could just become normal. Who cares about stopping it? It's always been that way. So we have to act together. It might not be easy, but it also doesn't have to be this way. Homogenization is cheaper. Polarization, misinformation, and hate are profitable. But there are highly skilled people in Zambia who can help do something about it. Sorry for running over, but Skomo, thank you. Also, I'm guessing we probably don't have much time for Q&A, but please do get in touch with me. I'm happy to email with people, share resources, things like that.
Maybe we can have some questions, maybe just 2.
Hello. Okay. Thank you so much. I'm Gerard Londoi. I'm with the Internet Society Zambia chapter. Interesting presentation there. And I think I mostly interested in the balance between us being human beings and where we become digital animals. Or, yeah, maybe digital animals is a better term. Because we noticed that when most of us go online, in most cases, we become completely different people. And the human being that you meet here is also a completely different person. Maybe the Gerard that is online is a bully. And when I come here, I'm all polite and I'm nice to everybody and I'm saying hi and whatnot. So in your experience, where do you think we should draw the line? And also another one, in addition to this question, we've seen how powerful these tech companies have become. I'll give you an example of Meta. Meta owns 3 of some of the most used tech companies in the world. They own Facebook, they own Instagram, they own WhatsApp as well. That's a lot of power to harness as a company. So when it comes to data protection and data mining on the part of these tech companies, do you think the responsibility lies more on the tech companies or we as the individuals to control ourselves? And if we can, what are some of the mechanisms that we can use in order to ensure that these people do not invade our privacies? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Grace Musigwa, Movers and Shakers Global. You spoke in line. Thank you so much for the insightful presentation. I should start with that. You mentioned of culture as well as AI, right? So when you look at the Zambian culture and what we have here, our parents are usually monitoring whatever it is that young people do. So I'm asking this question in line with pupils that are keenly interested in artificial intelligence. So just to mention, a niece of mine actually came up, she's into coding. She's a grade 11 pupil, but she's into coding and actually came up with something, an AI of some sort, that is able to respond to additional mathematics questions, mathematics, as well as physics. So now there's this culture thing where some parents actually are not embracing young people or encouraging young people to venture into AI. So please just speak in line with us, because I'm sure we have parents in the room. How best can we support the young ones? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the fantastic questions. I mean, to the first, honestly, yeah, drawing the line between the nice person and I really like that, digital animal. It's a tough thing. I mean, I wish I had an answer concretely. I mean, I hope it's something that over time we can, as people, remember that there's someone else, a real human being on the other side. And I think that's just all we can really try to do. Try to make the digital spaces more like our face-to-face communities. Don't talk to somebody the way you wouldn't talk to them to their face. But that goes down to the homes, and it's one of those, I don't like the dichotomy of, the companies or the people. There's responsibilities on both sides. I think more responsibility should be put towards companies, definitely, but it's something that's a constantly difficult thing. It's something I rack my brain over. I mean, how do we make sure that people are honest, ever? But I just think that all we can do is try to remember that there are people. And also, when people are mean to you, as we had people in this wonderful panel saying, you just have to realize if somebody's a jerk, they're a jerk. Don't listen to them, or try not to. It's not that easy. Mental health is a big thing. I've had my mental health struggles in life. But all you can do is try to do your best. And to this, whose responsibility, ours or tech? Again, I think it's both. I mean, I think big tech companies need to kind of rewind things. They need to, again, with capitalism stuff, put people in front of profits. Something that came up when I was talking with people about aspects of Zambian cultures that should be informing technology. One of the things that came up was the golden rule. Treat others as you would like to be treated. If you're forming a tech company, don't take data you don't need. Don't take data that you wouldn't want to have taken from you. Unfortunately, they say they have responsibilities to shareholders, but really it should be a moral shift to responsibilities to people and communities. And with culture and AI, that's fantastic. I'm so happy to hear your niece is doing that. And this is exactly what we need. We need young women, we need young people around the world building AI, built on their values. And what I would say for parents, I mean, this is kind of the way I was raised. And the way I approach my daughter, you have to teach. There are terrible, scary, horrible things in the world. And if you just hide under the blanket, it doesn't make the monsters go away. You have to know that they're out there. You have to have frank, difficult conversations with your children. And this is, again, a shift in culture. It might be topics that could be taboo. But it's things that are out there, and you need to prepare them so that when they come across it, because they will, they're prepared to be able to defend themselves and not be taken advantage of. You know, so when my daughter's old enough, I'm going to have her take martial arts. That way I know when she's out there, no matter if somebody tries to do something, she can stand up for herself. But yeah, thank you all so much. I'm happy to talk with you afterwards.
A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shagnon. And indeed, as all the topics we have had, starting from yesterday and throughout today, very insightful. And we look forward as well to you continuing to communicate with us, because of course we have collected all your details. We'll make use of that internet. The conversations, a lot of them are just starting here, right? It's about what we implement after these 2+ days moving forward. So thank you very, very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call upon Mwinji Nakamba Siame, who is our moderator for the next session from Ethereum Zambezi. The topic is preparing Zambia for the future, integrating blockchain as well as AI. It's a conversation, of course, about the digital space and a conversation about money as well. Thank you so much. Warm round of applause. Madam Winji, thank you. And how you found the day so far? And seeing as we're discussing Ethereum Zambezi, are you the person to see for a loan? Just so we get...
I wish I was the person to see for a loan. I'm just around. But yeah, so just to start, we'll get into it more. Zambezi is basically an organization that is helping to bring awareness to things like AI, to things like crypto, blockchain, and how they fit into, as our last panelist said, our cultural context. So a bit of background, and I'm Mwinji. I'm a creative writer, culture journalist, and my panelists, also from Zambezi, are going to be Lloyd and Liseli as well. You can come up. Just as they come up, Lloyd is a tech genius who works with AI and who works with Web3, which we'll discuss more about. Liseli is a multi-talented woman. She's a DJ. She's also interested in tech. She's also interested in making these technologies accessible and easy to use. Yeah, so that's basically who we are and what we'll be talking a bit about. We're going to try and go through this as quickly as possible. And so maybe begin by Lloyd and Liseli introducing themselves a little bit more, just for a few seconds. Keep it brief.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Liseli Akayo Mbokwa. I'd like to say, first of all, a big thank you to the Bloggers of Zambia for inviting us. I am the co-founder and project lead at Ethereum Zambezi. Ethereum is basically a blockchain and cryptocurrency, and we are part of that ecosystem. I'm also a multifaceted artist with legal background. I'm a DJ, Afrofusion rapper, designer, and crafter.
Hi everyone. Okay. My name is Lloyd, professionally known as Lord MND, because I'm quite anonymous. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Ethereum Zambezi, as well as an alpha tester for most of the AI products that you guys have been using for the last couple of years. I alpha test products for OpenAI, from the first ever DALI, that was like the image generation, all the way until the latest GPT for Omni, which came out a few weeks ago. Okay, so
Yeah, it's basically, so obviously lots of expertise. So maybe just to begin, I think throughout the day we've heard a lot about different terminologies. So we're also going to try and break that down, because not everyone is like a tech person, and not everyone is like, I don't know, like versed in these things. I'm also very new to it as a creative. So beginning first, like there's this idea of like, I've seen a lot on when I was on social media. I saw a lot of things like Web 1, Web 2, Web 3. So there's been different versions of the web, and each with their own, I suppose, risks and challenges. And so I would just like for you both to sort of touch on the difference between those versions of the web, the internet, from the first static pages where you just read to what we have now. And also, how has this change impacted Zambia, but also how will it impact Zambia and Zambians and any young people, so on?
Okay. So just like how human beings and machines these days grow from children until adults, the internet has also grown, okay? Back when the internet was first introduced, it was known as Web 1, okay? So for those who've been using the internet as early as the 90s or 2000, we had web pages that were considered static web pages, right? Where when you go to the internet, you were not able to post stuff. The only thing you were able to do was like read what was there, okay? Static web pages is what they were called. So that was called Web 1, okay? After a couple of years, with improvements in technology, we ended up having what we now consider Web 2, okay? So Web 2 enabled people, unlike Web 1, where companies were the only people who were allowed to create content. Web 2 enabled people like you and me to be able to post stuff onto the internet, okay? So we're talking about things like Facebook, we're talking about things like Instagram, WhatsApp, and basically what everybody is using currently, okay? And a few years back, the introduction of Web3 was also introduced to the world, okay? And in Web3, what happens is, unlike Web 2, where the companies that actually own these, like Facebook and Instagram, actually have your data and get it and sell it, in Web 3, the people who actually own this data are you and me, okay? So companies no longer have access to your data if you decide to use Web 3, which is the next stage of the internet, okay?
Yes, so just to add on to what Lloyd said, so Web3 is the third generation of the internet. And this allows us to own our data. So it's the decentralized web. There's no single centralized authority. Everybody owns their data in Web3. So Web3 tries to deal with issues of data privacy and data protection because it doesn't make it easily accessible to central authorities. So I hope you guys understand. Does everybody understand what Web3 is? Yes, and it's not complex to get onto Web3. You just need the internet. Everybody thinks that there's a complex way or sign up or you need to pay something. No, you can all participate in Web3, and Web3 also allows you to monetize your data. So for example, I'm a musician, and I put my work out on a platform called Catalog Works. So Catalog Works allows me to sell my music as NFTs. As an NFT is basically a unique collectible that can exist in digital form. So my music is sold as NFTs on this platform. I don't use any middle entities like labels or like Spotify. So if someone buys my music in Web3, I get to keep like 98%, and the platform gets very little. They get like, I think, less than 5%. So Web3 tries to solve such issues of ownership, and also tries to empower artists and other creatives. And it's not just creatives as well. Web3, you can have finance, DeFi, it can healthcare as well. There's so many ways of using Web3 and the blockchain. So Web3 is powered by blockchain technology.
Awesome. So what I'm basically hearing is that we've gone from just like content consumption to Web3. You guys can comment after my next question. It's like we are now the creators, and we now have a resource. And like the previous speaker was saying, data, imagination, creativity is something that with Web3, we can actually begin to make some money from it. But also we can bypass, as she was saying, because there's no record label, there's no government who's saying, calling Web3 and being like, block the song or like put it down. You can, so that's basically, but yeah, so to move on to the next sort of question, which is also to do with the benefits of Web3, is there's also something like called blockchain. I don't know how many people have heard of blockchain. Blockchain technos, okay, at the back, okay. So a handful of people have heard of blockchain. Who don't know about blockchain, I would want to ask you both, what are some of the features of blockchain? Like, what makes it so, for lack of a better word, cool? And what are some of the ways that it can be used that are potentially beneficial to individuals, maybe organizations?
Okay. So the blockchain has got so many uses, but before we actually talk about the uses of the blockchain, I would like to give a very simple explanation about what the blockchain is. So the blockchain is a decentralized ledger. For most of you who are into finance, I'm sure you know what a ledger is. For those who aren't into finance, a ledger is simply a book or a software, depending on the area you're in, where information is stored, such as the time or the transaction or who the money was sent to or who received the money. Basically, the entire transaction data is stored in this thing that is called a ledger. And this ledger, unlike the centralized companies that we have, is fully transparent, meaning every single person here can easily go to the blockchain and see every single transaction that has happened or is currently happening. So the blockchain enables complete transparency, okay? So I'll give you guys a very simple example. In our governments around the world, we can all agree to say we have zero transparency with how most of taxpayers' money and how most of these things are handled. If most governments actually decided to use the blockchain, every single citizen would be able to see how our money is being used, where it's being used, who's making these transactions, rather than us being told to say our government or the government of another country has spent maybe 10 million on maybe, let's say, trucks, when they actually only spent $1 million or less. So the blockchain has got all these, I would say, features which enable every single person on the planet to use.
Yes, and to just add on to what Lloyd said, the blockchain is also immutable. So this means that whatever you put on the blockchain cannot be altered or deleted. So for as long as the internet exists, whatever you put on the blockchain will exist. If it means 500 years in the future, 1,000 years in the future, it will be there. So it's another way of storing data. So you see how we have so many issues with storing things in Zambia. We are terrible at storage and documentation. I know there are things at ZNBC which are, losing, videos which are lost or damaged, but the blockchain can help us store information. So it's another way of just keeping our information protected and safe, and also in the interest of provenance as well. So blockchain technology is largely ignored in Zambia because of the mentality, I guess, which is connected to cryptocurrencies. And most Zambians just believe that, cryptocurrency, the first thing that comes to their mind is it's a scam. It will be a scam, and if you don't have adequate information. So it's very important before entering the Web3 space that you guys do adequate research and know how to protect yourself against scammers. Yeah, that's what I wanted to add.
Thank you. So the next question is obviously in this previous panel, the previous one, the concept of artificial intelligence came up quite a lot. And we've had some brief definitions. It's been used everywhere. It's been used in the arts. As we heard, it's been used in politics, where people maybe make up pictures, but you guys will also touch on that. Would you be able to give us like a bit of a breakdown on its potential uses in Zambia? Hopefully positive, but if you think they're negative ones as well, you're welcome to. And also some of the challenges in actually like getting people to use AI. So for instance, I'm on a platform like Reddit. I'm also a creative with friends, in-person friends I know, and virtual friends. And a lot of them understand AI. So but what are in their countries, they're kind of ahead of it, but what are the challenges locally in actually implementing AI?
Okay, so before we can actually go to the challenges, I would like to maybe correct a slight misconception that most people have about artificial intelligence. Most people who you ask what artificial intelligence is, they will tell you it is a machine. I'm sure most of you agree with that simple definition. However, that definition is not true. Artificial intelligence is not a machine. Artificial intelligence is the brain that actually powers their machines, okay? Artificial intelligence, for lack of a better term, is a digital brain, okay? It is the exact copy of how your brain works. Your brain has neurons. The artificial intelligence has got a neural network, okay? You being able to understand how the artificial intelligence is an actual brain will also help you to be able to actually use it more, I would say, profoundly and better than you guys thinking it's just a machine, okay? I'll give you an example. Most people from 2021, before most of the world knew about AI, when some of these models started dropping, a few of my artist friends saw some of the first artworks that were created by these models, and most of them would laugh at it, saying, "Oh, these are not good. These look like a 2-year-old was drawing." And I was telling them to say, they look that way because it's still considered young. It is still growing, okay? A year and a half later, we have AI models that not only create very good looking art, we have AI models that create movies, okay? Such as OpenAI's Sora or the Chinese version called Kling. We also have AI models that can clone voices, okay? AI models are able to clone a human voice in less than 3 seconds of audio, okay? It means anybody out there in the world can look for your video or your song and simply get 3 seconds of your audio and clone it to sound exactly like you, to such an extent that they can use that against you for malicious intent if they felt like, or just as parodies, okay? So it goes back to the same thing I said. Artificial intelligence is a brain. If you figure out how to use it, you will be able to, I would say, benefit from using it. When it comes to people in Zambia not being able to, I would say, use these AI systems or having a sort of lag towards them, I think the most reason, or the most profound reason, isn't because they don't like the tools or they don't know how to use them. I think the most, I'd say, profound reason is because they are scared of losing their jobs. That's what most people think. When they hear AI, the only thing they think of is, my job is gone. You know, no more getting paid at the month end. What am I going to do when this machine, you know, takes over? But that's not the truth. When computers first came, it was the same mentality. Everybody was thinking, oh, my job is going to finish. But every single person in this audience right now has got a computer, whether as a phone or as an actual device. So I feel like the mentality just needs to be changed to show people, to say these AI tools are here to benefit you more than they're here to take over your job.
Yes, and looking at it in the Zambian context, there's been a little bit of resistance from Zambians generally. I feel like it's because of just a lack of awareness and just them not fully understanding what these tools can really, really do. So I know, like, because I'm in the arts, a lot of artists are, should I say, against it, because they believe like some of the generations are not true art or they are cheating. But at the end of the day, art will still be created and we'll still consume it. So I know that right now even music producers are against it, because we've got models like Udio and Suno, which can produce really, really good instrumentals and vocals as well, and lyrics. So we cannot stop this from happening. The best way we can do, what we can do is to learn how to use it, to learn how to communicate effectively with it, and to also just learn how to collaborate with it. It's here to leverage the playing field. I know Zambia might not be ready, but if we can just train the AI to be fluent in our languages, at least our main languages, it will bridge that digital gap that we have. Only 4 million Zambians are online. Only 4 million out of 19 million Zambians are online. So when it was such a big issue when they removed the scratch cards, my aunt from the village complained to say, I don't know how we're going to buy talk time now. They have to find Airtel money, walk kilometers to find a booth to deposit so that they can just buy talk time. So the best way to help our brothers and sisters, especially in the rural areas, is to train these models to be able to communicate with them so that it meets them at their level. We don't have enough time to start teaching our brothers and sisters in the rural areas who can't read and write, how to read and write, and then how to gain digital literacy. The AI can help us do that if it can speak to them. You know, it will help a fisherman fish better. It will help our farmers farm better. It will help those who can't see to see. In the earlier panel discussion, I wanted to inform our friends that those who can't see can use computer vision. ChatGPT has computer vision, and Claude AI also has computer vision. You can upload documents to Claude AI. It will read even an entire book and give you feedback on it. So there are so many ways to use these systems, and Zambians shouldn't be afraid. What we should learn how to do is to use them effectively for our benefit, to leverage the playing field, to bring Africa to the level of where Western countries are, and to also encourage Africans to just educate themselves, and so that we are not left behind. I asked the AI, how can I make a cell phone? It showed me how to make a cell phone, step by step. So we don't need the Chinese to come and teach us manufacturing here. We can use the AI. It can help us to create the machinery that we need. You know, we've got 3D printers now. We don't have to import some of these things. We just need to learn. And that's what I think. It's a tool, not here to take our jobs, not here to come and kill us. It's not Terminator time. It's here to help us.
Terminator. Okay, it's been a while. Yeah, so that was very insightful, I think, especially for artists, because I'm a writer, and so that's my main thing. I also do visual arts. And I was like, it's going to take my job. But I also have to say that, like one of the artists said before, there will always be a human touch. And AI is just there to support you. So if you're a visual artist, you can create an image. You don't know how to draw someone sitting. You can create an image of someone sitting and then, oh, okay, that's how you draw. You don't actually have to even use that image. So it's not everyone, when something's new, we're always scared, but there's always, a way to use it properly. And speaking of using things properly, blockchain, we've discussed what it is, you've touched on it. What are some of the ways that it can be used, not just by individuals, but I think for governance? Like, if we have issues and we go and we say we have an issue, say, of corruption, it's good to say that, but we can also propose solutions through blockchain. What are some of the ways that we can, as Africans, use that to kind of, and what are some of the success stories of using blockchain in bettering people's lives?
Okay, so we do have a couple of success stories coming out of Africa. I think in Kenya, a group of people created an app on the blockchain which enabled people to be able to vote freely and transparently. And I think after it was used during a particular election, it's now been taken over by, I'm not sure what company this is, but they got the application and they're now using it abroad to actually conduct free and fair elections. Okay, so rather than having missing ballot papers or having people print new ballot papers, somebody has already created an app that any country in the world can use, okay, to conduct free and fair elections. Elections that are transparent, okay? So no more selling your NRCs, no more, like I said, printing new ballots. You can easily just use this particular application, okay? And like my colleague mentioned, the blockchain really has so many uses, like storage as well. We always tend to talk about things like data as well. Like if we don't store our data, our children are not going to have access to it. We already have a scenario right now in Zambia where a lot of our children that are growing up can't seem to speak our languages, okay? Most of them feel like speaking English is more ideal than knowing your traditional languages. What they seem to forget is there is a lot of information that our culture has carried for generations and hundreds of years, okay, compared to what we're learning from English, okay? So if we don't store information, if we don't store data, we are surely going to reach a point where that data can either be easily changed, right? Like, I'll give you an example. There's an article that came out 2 weeks ago that said MTV lost 20 years worth of data. That's data that they are never going to get back, okay? We're talking about videos, articles, interviews. It's so much data, terabytes of data that was lost simply because nobody thought of storing it on the blockchain, okay? if somebody thought of storing that data on the blockchain, that data would still be here and will still be there for like a couple of 100 years. But we've lost that data, and we're never going to get it back. So I feel like it's the exact same thing that we also have here in Zambia, okay? We have to start leveraging these technologies to store our data. Otherwise, we will also end up being in the same situation where we lose everything that our ancestors and people have spent countless years and lifetimes trying to set up and, you know, combine so that we can benefit off.
Yes, just to add on to what Lloyd said, another example is what the Women's History Museum is doing. Vamulenga Kapwepwe has a platform called Summit Share, which allows us to get 3D versions of our objects, which are in European museums, so that we can make money from our objects. For example, the Swedish Museum has got about 200 plus Zambian objects, but we can't get them back yet. So in the meantime, they are being scanned and put on this platform called Summit Share, and they can be sold. The 3D versions of those objects, like sculptures, can be sold as NFTs, and that way we can make money from our heritage, which is abroad. So the Ethereum Foundation funded Vamulenga for this project, and we can also do the same. It doesn't matter what it is. As long as something can exist digitally, it can be put on the blockchain, whether it's a podcast, artwork, music, even money. You know, we've got different cryptocurrencies right now. We've got Bitcoin, Ethereum. We've got so many of them, and they all exist on the blockchain. They call it magic internet money. But this magic internet money can actually be converted into US dollar and then into kwacha, and can be withdrawn to your Airtel Money or MTN via yellow card. So we need to benefit from the blockchain economy. We can all benefit from the blockchain economy one way or another. I have made some money from the blockchain economy. He has made some money from the blockchain economy. And not just blockchain as well. AI. Let's look at some of these companies and actually do research for them. If we have concerns, we can actually hit up OpenAI, you know, do research for them and teach them as well. They're always willing to take on people from all over the world. So let's not just limit ourselves. The economy has been so bad. We can always work remotely. There are so many opportunities in the Web3 space and the AI space. We just don't know. And I encourage all of you guys to at least be on Twitter. I know social media can be toxic. Say Facebook is the ghetto. Instagram is for showing off. Twitter is for business. So if you know how to use Twitter effectively, you will actually benefit from the blockchain economy. You will not find the Web3 people on Facebook. They're on Twitter. And even on Twitter, they've got their subsections. There's a social media just for Web3. It's called Farcaster. On Farcaster, you can make money just from posting, doing threads, writing, commenting even. You can make money. There is a lot of money in the Web3 space. You just have to know how to navigate it.
So I'm being told that I need to wrap it up quickly. So questions. If there are any questions that any of you have, okay, I think we're going to have, there's a lady who put her hand up. There's a gentleman in the cap, and then the gentleman at the front. I think 3, and then you can always come and ask us after if there's any questions.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Wango Kambayenda. I'm a final year student, and I'm studying computer science at DMI. So I'm I'm majoring in AI. So I wanted to find out, and actually wanted you people also to advise me as a student. So I was working on my final year project, and it's an AI breast cancer detection. So, so using AI, I have come up with, I use ChatGPT most of it to write my report and also to come up with my project. So my lecturers always tell me to say that you have to start from scratch yourself. Must you always involve AI or ChatGPT to come up with something? So I wanted you people to advise me to say, am I abusing or using ChatGPT? Because even at work, I'm actually working somewhere as a part-time ITT teacher at Algorithmics International School and a part-time software engineer at Afrocentec. So I wanted also to find out that they also tell us to say that must you always use ChatGPT to write your reports when submitting? Why don't you write from scratch? So if I'm abusing AI, as they say, can you please advise me how best can I use it? Because I feel AI is here to help us to reduce the labor. So kindly advise.
So do you want to? I think let's get all the questions because they might repeat. The gentleman in the cap, please.
Good evening. My name is Hussein Mbuso Lunat. I'm the ICT specialist at Zambian Governance Foundation, and I'm a huge AI user as well. So yeah, one of the issues that I've seen, like for most people who use AI, is that sometimes AI has got a habit of like hallucinating, like it would like tell you the wrong thing, and it would be so confident that you would even believe it yourself. Have you? Hear me? Yeah. Have you found ways in how you can mitigate this issue, or any ideas of how you can do it? Yeah, that's my question. Thanks.
And then last question, gentleman in the front.
Good afternoon, Chief Oliver. I've got just two quick questions. Number one, who hosts the blockchain? Then number two, how do we navigate perceptions when it comes to urban and rural setups? I've heard of, you so much concentrate about education, which I think is a very wrong perception. Then in our investigations or our help or advocacy, have we also thought about infrastructure? You talked about cards, which me who's coming from the environmental background, I'll tell you that I'm one of those ones who's against cards. So how do we navigate it by improving infrastructure? Thank you.
Okay, so I'll start with the lady who asked the first question about how people are saying you're abusing artificial intelligence. Personally, and this is coming from like me, it's my opinion. It's not like the general opinion of like the company or my colleagues. For me, I would ask my lecturer, why don't we just write it with pen and paper instead? Like, why do we even use computers? You know, so I feel like with artificial intelligence, although it writes stuff for you, you still need to tell it what to write, okay? It won't just wake up one day and be like, oh, do you want me to write your assignment for you? It doesn't work that way. It still requires lots of human interaction, okay? So if I would say your supervisors, if they have a problem with it, the best thing you can do maybe is to try to find a way to balance it, okay? Maybe use it more as a research assistant rather than something that just does everything for you, just to make them happy, okay? And it won't really be for too long, because if you look at other countries around the world, most, I would say, educational institutions have also removed things like homework, because they figured out to say most people who, if you give students homework, they'll just simply go to the AI, paste it, and it will give them like all the answers. So education is changing, okay? And some people are still going to be quite averse to like the AI. So I would say for now, maybe find a way to kind of balance it, but still continue using it for like your own personal projects and, you know, part of your work. For the gentleman in the cap, AI hallucinates simply because it's a digital brain, just like how human beings will lie. I'm sure all of us in this audience have lied before. I'm sure we've actually all lied today. Okay, so
Not me.
so even artificial intelligence is exactly the same way. It will also come up with things that it thinks are true, because that's the type of data that it has. It's the same with human beings. Some human beings will rather tell you a story rather than just telling you, I don't know, okay? So an easier way of mitigating like the hallucination is, number one, you can obviously go through your work. I'm one person who always advises, if you're using artificial intelligence to do a particular task, at least know or have knowledge about that task, okay? Like if you are a doctor, don't go to an artificial intelligence and just tell it to tell you stuff about medicine and you are completely clueless about it. You won't tell if it's giving you correct information or if it's giving you wrong information. Again, AI is a tool that you're supposed to use the same way you use things like your car, the same way you use things like your laptops is the same way you're supposed to use it. Another way you can use it is, depending on the type of project you're using it for, it would be a good idea to find resource. Like if you have particular books, you can use, for example, ChatGPT. You can go to your settings and you can put those books into your system, I would say system settings, and that would enable the chatbot to give you very accurate information about what you're looking for. I don't know if that helps. And the gentleman on the, I think my colleague can answer.
Okay, I didn't get your question fully, but from what I got, you're talking about infrastructure in the rural areas. Yeah.
Which is a problem. So, you being an advocate and also trying to improve the livelihoods of the general citizen, how do we navigate from perceptions to the actual issues and problems that are faced both in urban and rural areas, minus coming with a conception that the problem is probably education? Thank you.
Okay, so I'll answer the first question you had about the blockchain. So the blockchain is a decentralized system. It is not owned by one particular human being or organization. The way it works is by using peer-to-peer systems. I don't know if people here have heard of torrents before. How many know what a torrent is? Okay, so basically a torrent is a system where if I have files on my computer, anybody around the world can have access to those files by downloading them to their system, peer-to-peer. That's how the blockchain works, okay? It's not owned by one centralized system or company, whereby if the company decides to say, oh, let's shut it down today, or let's censor it, then they can censor it. It doesn't work that way. It means if every single person here creates a smart wallet and goes on the blockchain, it means you people also participate as the people keeping it alive. So it means if everybody in the world stopped using the blockchain, but we had 2 people from here who are using it, the blockchain will still be alive, okay? For the second question you raised, I think when it comes to issues of infrastructure, I feel like that's more of a government thing, okay? Like, I feel like the government is the one that is in charge of building all these infrastructures, simply because it is, we live in a centralized environment, okay? Our government is not decentralized. If our government was decentralized, all we would do is simply just vote, and tomorrow we would have trucks going all the way to the rurals to start building this infrastructure that you're talking about. But because we don't have the say in this centralized system, the best we can do is just dream or wait for the government to decide to take those infrastructures and build them. Because in all truthfulness, even if we asked you today to say, are you or can you manage to take infrastructure there on your own? Is there anybody in here who can manage to go to the rurals and start building this infrastructure alone? I would like to see those people, because clearly for the last 30 years, no one is doing anything about it. So when it comes to the infrastructure thing, that's more of a government thing. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys, a quick one. Yes, so I know it's the government's responsibility, but an idea would be to be able to provide maybe centers, maybe through the post offices, where people can actually go and access AI facilities. I know it's quite hard even for someone to just have a smartphone, even here in Lusaka. In the rural areas, a lot of people want to have smartphones, but they just can't afford. And we shouldn't just say that, no, these guys, you know, they can't manage. They can. People there's a lot of geniuses in our villages, a lot. And some of them just wish they just had access to a computer. A lot of them want to learn. So if there's a way to just provide internet to our rural areas, maybe through Starlink and our post offices, you know, where someone can actually say, okay, today I'm going to use the AI to help me, you know, with my mathematics or something like that. It would be much easier if we have that already in place. But for now, we can just hope that our friends in the rural areas can actually still learn. Let's say if someone has at least one smartphone in the village, they can still learn from that. We should be able to just provide them with at least the devices. Even in schools, some rural areas, teachers won't even go there because it's too far. But if we can just have a screen, train a teacher how to operate the AI, and the AI can act as a teaching assistant. So it's a lot when it comes to our infrastructure, and also issues of network as well. And Zambia is huge. Zambia is massive. So yes, it's a lot of things to tackle, and I feel like we shouldn't just rely on the government alone. We should also, as Zambians, as citizens, also spread awareness and also teach our relatives. We all have relatives in the villages. You know, we should show them as well. We shouldn't exclude them.
Okay, thank you very much. And you can also check out more about Eth Zambezi on the internet, Twitter, whatever it's called. Thank you to our panelists, and thank you to the audience for your insightful questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. As we wrap up today, official day one, I would like to encourage you that day two, with the energy you've seen so far, it is definitely a progressive one by nature of the conversations. So I guarantee you tomorrow will be even more exciting. With that said, we kickstart at 9 a.m. on the dot. We will not be having a long protocol to open tomorrow, so that will mean we start on time. There'll be no with these few words. Y'all know what I mean. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, we're so grateful for all of you who have come through. And once again, I can only anticipate tomorrow will be more exciting. please, even as you depart from here, generate as many questions, come back with curiosity. The point is to solve that curiosity. The point is to network. Speaking of that, we do have our cocktail, which will be taking place at the Steak and Grill section this evening. Those of you who are staying behind and joining us for the cocktail between the hours of 8:20, we look forward to mixing and mingling with you there. So thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen. So you will be joining us, of course. We do have the invitations that we dished out for the cocktail. So please do make sure you carry your invitations, okay, as you are joining us. Make sure you carry your invitations as you are joining us for this evening's cocktail. Once again, 9 a.m. tomorrow. And a round of applause for yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. Speakers and audience alike, we thank you so, so much. And until tomorrow, bon voyage. Let's meet again with enough energy to carry tomorrow to success as well. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.